What's up, guys? This is Nick from Arch City Poker, and in today's vlog, going to be doing, I guess, part two of how to beat live low stakes poker. I didn't imagine this ever being like a multi-part series, but I've had a lot of traffic and a lot of great feedback on the first video, so I think this is what a lot of players are looking for, just a lot of simple and very basic advice that they can apply right away to the tables and even off the tables. So let's get right into it. I guess in part two, and we'll see if you guys, with your comments and suggestions, there's an unlimited amount of like concepts and topics that I could basically talk about in multiple parts. But I guess in part two, based off of some comments from part one and some ideas I had, I'm going to talk about just a few different topics here and try to keep it around, I don't know, maybe I guess like 8 minutes or something again. So it's a pretty quick and easy video for you guys. But I talked about this a little bit in part one, but understanding how to exploit a specific player pool is quite important, especially the low stakes live pool. I mentioned before that many of the players will be call stations, and you should just really keep your strategy simple and just value bet them quite wide and quite frequently and not bluff them pretty much at all, unless it's just a very obvious spot where you have fold equity. On the flip side, if you'll have a bunch of those players that basically overfold and don't defend even close to enough, especially on the turn and river, and that's where you should really increase the pressure and increase your bluffing frequencies. So a specific spot, though, just to play off of that, I guess, or to continue that concept, is that most of the pool, like most low stakes live player pools, will underbluff the river tremendously. Like, I mean, to the point where like they're almost never bluffing for bets that are like close to pot. If you have like the second nut flush on the river and it's a paired board, and you have a player that, let's say, like he barreled into you 3 times or he check raised you on the turn and then he pots it on the river, you have to really think to yourself, is this player really trying to move me off of flush at this point? Is he really going to be bluffing this board when there's so much out there? And in these low stakes games, that's how a lot of these players think. They think, well, like there's 3, to a suit out there. There's a paired board. They're not going to be value betting trips or something like that. At least most of them won't. So I would definitely keep that in mind on the river when a lot of your range will basically be bluff catching. Definitely keep that in mind. The second part of this topic, I guess, is bet sizing tells and real dollar amounts. Excuse me, guys, I'm a little stuffed up from, I hope I'm not getting a cold, but so let's say like you have an opponent on the river that, let's say the pot is $400 and your opponent bets $125. You have to really keep in mind at live low stakes poker that a lot of times, even though that bet is essentially about quarter pot, and it means that they should have a lot wider of a range, basically, like they're basically trying to represent like a wider amount of value hands and bluffs in theory, and so you should be defending at a really wide theory, getting that kind of great pot odds. However, with like the $125, to a lot of those players, that's a lot of money. Like they're going to think themselves in real American dollars or real euros, whatever you guys have they're going to think, well, 125, that's a lot. And a lot of times their bluffing frequencies will not be high enough. And that goes back to the point that most of these pools do not bluff the river at a high enough frequency, not even close to where you should be defending like you should be in theory. So definitely keep that in mind. If you have an opponent where you're like, yeah, this person, when they put in like over $100, even in relation to the pot size, like even if it's a quarter pot bet, if you only see this person put in like a stack of red or whatever, when they just only have it, then think to yourself, I don't need to defend at the proper frequencies. So definitely keep that in mind. Another comment that I had from part one was, what do I do when there's a period of like being card dead? I think that's a very good point made by, I can't remember who made it. I was going to throw a name out there, but I'm sorry, I forget. But I would say when you go card dead and have those periods of card dead, and I liked including this in the vlog this week because last week I had about 3 of 5 sessions where I was truly card dead, and it was rough. But I thought to myself, as long as I can outlast the pool mentally, then I will still have a significant edge. What I mean by that is, let's say for me personally, that I sit down at a table with like 3 other pros, we may be quite close in skill level at like a no limit 9-handed low stakes game. Technical wise, we might be about the same skill level, but where I think that I may have a significant edge over probably 9 out of 10, maybe 99% of the players, is I feel like my mental game is very, very strong. Like I feel like I can outlast these players through like the card dead periods, being patient, understanding what my image is, understanding that I just don't want to say, hey, F it, I'm going to play this hand now. Last week I saw a player do this where he seemed really card dead, and I believe he opened, it was like King 9 offsuit from early position. That hand has a lot of reverse implied odds. He got called by somebody that had Ace King, and he ended up losing quite a bit of money in that hand when I believe a king turned, and so they started getting some money in on the turn and river. But as long as you can outlast the pool mentally, not just say F it, and just keep to your good ranges. Enter, like I said in part 1, enter with stronger, tighter ranges usually against these player pools because they're going to be playing too many hands. If you're even close to even in skill level, if you feel like you don't maybe have a significant edge at your specific table that day, you could have a far greater mental edge over the pool, because most players are not going to be patient enough, and they're just going to say F it. I'm going to start playing some hands. I'm going to 3-bet King 4 offsuit or something from out of position against an in position raiser. And maybe not that kind of aggression from these player pools, but they'll just start playing hands and saying, F it, I want to play, I need to see some pots, I'm playing too tight. And to kind of play off of that, I guess, is your image will appear much tighter. And so last week, one session in particular, I started to realize, okay, I may be very card dead, but I think I can look for more spots to increase my 3-bet light frequencies. I can look for spots to squeeze and pick up some dead money. That's a good way to start building your image back towards, I guess, like progressing it towards the mean, and having it not be so tight so you can get paid off when you actually do get a hand. Because I did have a player that said to me last week, well, when it sucks being card dead because then when I get a hand, everybody knows it. Well, if that's how most players are going to think, and that's how they will think at these player pools, then you just need to increase your bluffing frequencies. And I picked up, I think, twice, I think it was within 2 to 4 hands, I had a player that opened middle position. There's 2 callers. I had Ace 3 of hearts out of the blinds, and I squeezed it to a quite large size. The original raiser, I think it was like 2 limpers, and then there was a raiser, and then I 3-bet him. The 2 limpers fold, and the original raiser goes, yeah, I haven't seen you 3-bet in a while, and he opened folds. He shows me jacks. I mean, that's quite a strong hand in position facing a 3-bet from the blind. So, so you definitely, you're going to have that kind of image where you're tighter. And then I think it was just, like I said, maybe an orbit later, a few hands later, I had a player open in early position. I had King 6 suited, I believe, 3-bet him. He decided to call, but then he just decided to fold on the flop because the board hit me quite strongly, I think, at least my range. I didn't really hit anything at all. So you'll definitely have a tighter image when you're card dead, but as long as you can outlast the pool mentally and just, make sure you stick to good hand selection and understand your image and take advantage of spots where maybe you fold most of the time, but you should be more aggressive sometimes. I would definitely increase that aggression a little bit more because you're going to have much more fold equity. So I hope that part 2 was pretty good. I hope it's as good as part 1. And like I said, if you guys have any suggestions or comments about any of the topics in part 2 here, feel free to let me know. If you have any suggestions for future topics or like theories that I could talk about for, I guess, specifically live low stakes poker, then I'll be happy to do many parts for you guys. So this is Nick from Arch City Poker. Till next time.